Good morning, everybody. This is Councilman Joe Jones.
Good morning.
Brief overview. Definitely want to use this time to take
Hey, Mitch. How are we doing this morning? Oh, that's perfect.
Please mute your microphones until you've asked to speak, until we start the meeting. Thank you.
Maurice, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Dobbins. How are you?
Mr. Dobbins. I
Oh,
remember
what-
people used to say they would mix us up, but since he's retired, I haven't had too much of that.
Mr. Donovan.
Indeed. Hey,
What's up?
I wondered last week when I was temporary co-chairman, we changed the format a little bit and allowed you to introduce the cases in terms of the exacting language of the variances. So it would focus our conversation a little bit more than it has been at times. And wondered if you thought that was good and something you would embrace as we move forward.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good idea. I think we should do it.
Okay. Well, I don't see that Carol's on yet, but once we get, I presume she's back, right?
Yeah, for
Okay.
today.
We'll run it by her real quick, but it shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Sure.
Carol?
Good morning. Good morning.
I don't know if you just heard the if you heard the conversation I just had with Maurice about last week when I was temporary co-chair, we had Maurice basically introduce the specific language of the variances after Lori gave the standard. And it seemed to focus our conversation a little bit more directly into the business at hand and move the meeting along pretty well. So I asked him if he thought it was a good idea, having done it, and Maurice can speak for himself at this time. Maurice?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a good process addition.
So
Absolutely.
Carol, if you're comfortable with that, we could just follow that format again.
Okay, I was doing something when I punched in and I probably missed a little bit of what you said. You wanted to introduce something? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the order of teeing up the cases, we have it's read, but then again, when it's read, the specific variance language is omitted with the language that says, as recorded in the agenda, da 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 da. So then we go to, I swear it in, and Ms. Cooper gives the history, and then Lori gives the standard. Last week, after Lori gave the standard, I asked Maurice to review the exact variance language that we would be discussing. So it kind of focused our conversation. And it also allowed him to ask, I think, a couple of questions that would be asked sometime during the deliberation, but to get those on the table early in terms of city planning and some of the issues there. So anyway,
Would you like
end result was it moved our agenda, I think, quickly, and it helped focus us. So I said, if he thought it was a good idea, maybe we could just continue it.
So you'd like Alana to read them right in while she reads the.
No, actually, I would like Maurice to read them in, and because it allows him to give also some input if there's issues from the planning commission on any particular item.
So
yeah, and it's fresh. It's just fresher, and if Alana reads it, then it's not even like gone through 4 other things and you forgot what she said. No, really, I'll be honest.
I'm with you, but I have it in front of me, so I print it out always, so I've always had it. So to me, it wasn't a problem, but I could understand the other board members. It's a very good point, and I think, Maurice, do you concur that you would read it in?
Yeah, so I'm not reading them in verbatim. I'm just kind of summarizing what the variances are. So instead, I know, because as you know, the language is a little bit on the dry side and sometimes hard to follow. So I'm not really prepared today, so I'll try to wing it, to do this again. I wasn't sure that we were going to do this again. But I'll just try to summarize the variances.
Good.
Sounds like a plan to me. Good.
Do we have Alana today, Liz?
Do we have Liz?
She did not say that she would be absent. I
Okay.
don't see her name on here yet.
Got 3 minutes yet.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Mr. Dobbins. You missed it. I made that mistake earlier. I don't know what I was thinking.
Wow. That takes you back.
It's an that's an Atlanta hangover there.
That's what it was, Tim.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so, well, I guess we could probably do this on the record, but Clifton wanted to know if they could be moved up to the first case. They're third on the agenda. But I do see we have Councilman Brian Mooney here,
Right.
so that helps.
We did have Councilman Jones here as well. Is he still here? No. He was here earlier. I think he's, is that the Throckley case? Is that Mr. Jones, Councilman
Yes.
Jones? Yeah, okay.
I have no problem with moving the Clifton moving to first case.
Thanks.
Actually, the councilman has 2 cases, right? West 117th as well?
One is Brian Casey and one is
Oh,
Brian.
that's
Mooney.
Casey. Oh, I forgot the border's different over there. Okay.
These Bryants are,
I always get that mixed up.
okay. No, Miss Faith?
Not so far.
Looks like we may be not having Alana. Huh?
And I don't see, oh, there's Merlene. Okay, Merlene's here. Kelly's here.
Excuse me, Ms. Kukla or Mr. Rollins?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just had a question. I didn't know that I had a meeting to go into here at my job, so I was wondering, would I be able to go second if that was okay? It was kind of like an emergency meeting, a last meeting.
That would be Miss Kukla, or actually the chairperson,
Okay,
Miss Johnson.
or Miss,
And what case is
Madam,
this, please? Miss-
This is the Throckley Avenue. It's
The last
appointment.
case,
right.
Councilman Jones's case. Yes, you could go second then. I'll call your second.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're calling
Okay.
Councilman Mooney first.
I'd like to call meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order on this Monday, June the 7th. Good morning, all. Ms. Kukla, read the preamble, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'll read the preamble for you this morning. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or the facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. You will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We've also received emails from those who have provided written comments on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Please do a roll call, Liz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Faith?
No?
I do see her.
I am
I do see
I
her
am
now.
present.
Good
Okay.
morning. Ms.
Good
Barnes,
morning.
Yes.
Ms. Britt,
Yes.
Mr. Donovan,
Mr. Dobbins, here.
and Chairwoman Johnson is here. Madam Chair, we have
Yes.
a quorum.
Great, thank you. Ms. Faith, are you able to read we're going to start with the calendar 21-083 on Clifton Boulevard.
All right, one moment. Let me flip to that page. All right, calendar number 21-083 at 10011 Clifton Boulevard. Big House Development, LLC owner proposes to erect a new 11,540 square foot, 5-unit, 3-story building in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Tim, are you going to do a swear-in?
Yes, to everyone for this case, will you kindly raise your right hand? I'm going to read a statement. I'm looking for a response that says, I do with your name. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Your name and I. Case on
Tony,
Clifton.
we can't hear you.
Ryan Mooney, I do.
Okay.
Again,
Who was that last person that?
I don't know. I couldn't hear it.
Adam Davenport, I do.
Okay.
Adam.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Les Jaeger, I do.
All right. Anyone else? Last call for the.
Tim Mark, I do.
Okay. Anyone else?
Kyle Kulalot, I do.
Okay. Again, last call. Hearing none. We move to history.
Thank you very much. The legal standard will be judging the case on, please, Ms. Wagner.
Did you want the history first?
Oh, sure. I knew the history, so I didn't, but go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. I think the most important item in the history is that in calendar number 20-154, this board granted a variance that is nearly identical to this variance this morning. And I believe that we have a copy of that resolution for you to view. So I'm not sure if you want me to say anything else for that, Madam Chair, for the record.
Put it in here.
Yes, yeah. Oh. Whoa, is that the same case? So basically, this is the same case?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's been a change in the overall square footage as well as a side yard variance. And the appellant can of course speak to that more. I'll read the section that probably is most important. It says, whereas after due consideration of the testimony and other evidence presented at the hearing, specifically with the understanding of the following. The setback issue has been fully addressed. The material will be in keeping with the neighborhood and will be approved by the Landmarks Commission. There will be adequate space for vehicle turnaround in the 30.6 foot vehicle court. Landmarks Commission stated that expanding the shared driveway, that the shared driveway width was mentioned on the site plan. The curb cut will remain at 12 feet and that it will be approximately 100 feet from the intersection. The height of the building, along with many of the stated concerns by neighbors, is not a variance issue that the board needs to rule on, but it is understood that the building will be a mix of 2.5 stories and 3 stories, with the 3rd story portion being set back and not visible from the street. And also, this resolution stated that the community has had ample opportunity to review the project and air their concerns. So there are no conditions on this variance.
Okay. Thank you very much. The legal standard, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the maximum gross floor area, setback, and side yard regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting of variance not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting of variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. Please note that some of the requested variances, the use variance and possibly the setback variance, appear to have been granted in calendar number 20-154. Appellant sought and obtained an extension of the variances granted in 20.154, so those variances have not expired. Please also note the setback variance may be prohibited by section 32904. And the use variance was granted, the setback, I was unable to compare what was requested here with what was requested and granted last time, so possibly the applicant can explain that. And the side yard variance is a new variance that they're requesting.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wagner. Will somebody mute their microphone?
Yes, we're getting a lot of feedback from somebody. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, Maurice, are you going to update us on the new?
Oh, okay. I was going to do that earlier, but okay. I think they've pretty much covered with this one, the unique situations here already. As already stated, number 3, the setback variance was already passed last time. And I don't believe they are changing the setback from what was approved last time. So that's consistent. As Liz said, all of these variances were really granted before. I believe the only one that's different is number 4, which is the side yard variance. And I think the applicants would be better able to discuss with you what has changed from the previous project.
Thank you very much. Who's going to be the spokesperson for the big house?
We will be at Bowen. This is Kyle to the wide, Tim Lark.
Okay, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead, Tim.
So what we are looking to do on Residence 5, which is in the lower corner, we'd like to add a balcony that comes off the second floor that would be within a setback. The footprint of the building has the same.
We're getting echo. Again, if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. Try it again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
So the setback, so what we're asking for is on Residence 5, a second floor balcony that would go over the side yard setback line toward the back, along where there's already existing landscape screening on that side.
Oh. So there's setback from Clifton. Is there a balcony on those two? Residence 1, 2? Hello? Anybody hear me?
Yes.
Could you repeat that? Our audio broke up.
Could you repeat that, Ms. Johnson?
Oh, okay, one more time. The two residents, Residence 1 and Residence 2, do they have a balcony facing Clifton Boulevard?
Residence 2 has one facing West Boulevard. Residence 1 has a covered patio facing the sidewalk yard.
Okay, so. All right, thank you. Go ahead, go right ahead. Talk about that side yard. Is that what you're considering the side yard? The balconies are impacting it?
Yes, it's the new balcony off Residence 5 in the lower corner that would extend into the side yard setback. Where it says covered patio, there's a balcony above that patio.
Okay. All right. I'd like to hear from Adam Davenport. He's probably been working on this forever.
Good morning.
morning,
I
Ed.
actually haven't had too much involvement with it because it's in one of our landmarks districts. So I wonder if I wonder if Don is on, because I think they've had communication with Don over in landmarks. But in general, from our perspective in the planning department, the rest of the variances I think were spoken to at the last meeting, right? That was taken care of a while ago. And then here today, looking at I think what is a small increase in square footage for Residence 5 and the balconies. We're supportive of that. I look at it as functional outdoor space. When we review single family houses through our committee all the time, we look at functional porches and balconies as well, and require minimum widths for those spaces to actually make them functional. So we're supportive of the variances today, but Don could maybe talk to more of the design if he's on the call.
He's not here.
Yeah, he's not here.
Do we have a letter from Landmarks, Liz?
Yes, we have an email for sure. I believe I sent that over to Mr. Rollins, but the Landmarks Commission has approved the design.
And the changes that they're asking for now?
Here's the email up on the screen.
Okay. No objection. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there were two others before the councilman. So have I got everybody that's been sworn in? Okay, now I'm going to go to Councilman Mooney. I'd like to hear from him. He's been very patient. Well, if he has.
Thank you. At this point, I just had a question. If you could pull up that diagram again.
The site plan?
Yeah, we were just
Sure.
looking at it.
One sec.
I did have a chance to speak to Mr. Bowen and the developer. So we're just talking about the balcony for Unit 5. And so my question is, how far will that extend out the balcony?
It goes out 7.5 feet.
And it's hard to tell here, but where is the house to the west of it? How far back does it go in relation to the balcony?
So the balcony is well behind the house itself. The house stops about midway through Residence 1. It's up closer to the street.
Okay, so based on that, it's not like from this balcony that they're going to be staring in the side window for a residence. It's substantially north of this.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all. I have met with the developer and Mr. Bowen, and I reviewed it, and I think this is an overdue project, and I have no objections to this.
Thank you very much. Any questions, board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I think that considering we approved everything else in variance for case number 20-154, and we're just here for this one balcony and square foot extension, I move that we approve the variances as requested for calendar number 21-083.
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Ms. Faith? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Ms. Faith?
Can you hear me, Liz?
Yes, I can now.
Okay. I did have a question, but apparently I was muted on the phone. If I may, a quick question to the architect or developer. Did the floor plan change for unit number 5 at all?
The only change to the floor plan for unit number 5 is this is where we added about 400 square feet over the garage of residence 1. So the footprint of the building has remained the same, except residence 5 has gotten a little bit larger to equalize it with the rest of the units.
Okay, all right. Because we went through rather exhaustively all the issues on this when we heard the case previously. And I'm glad to see that you made some changes with Unit 5 because I felt that was deficient in the first place. So that satisfies my questions, and my vote is yes on this.
And debated. And
Thank you. Ms. Barnes?
Guys, I'm 110% for you.
Yes.
Please, if you are not speaking, please mute your microphone. Thank you. Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 21-83 is granted. It'll be ratified at the next meeting, and we will send you a letter.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Ms. Faith. We're going to go to 21059 at 17508 Throckley at this point.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman. This is Councilman Joe Jones. I want to let you guys know I'm on the phone.
Okay, well, Ms. Faith, can you read this into the record, please?
Yes, I can. I'm having to mute and unmute on my phone, so. Calendar number 21-059 at 17508 Rockley Avenue. Valerie Starks Hutton, owner, proposes to establish use as a residential facility in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record. The first postponement was made at the request of the board to allow time for the operations plan to be submitted. This was filed on April 16th, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Faith.
Everyone for this case who's going to testify, please raise your right hand. I'm going to read a statement looking for a response of I do with your name. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name?
Valerie Starks Hutton.
All right. Anyone else?
I do. BJ Brown.
All right. Anyone else? Councilman?
Councilman Joe Jones. I do.
All right. Anyone else? Last call on the history.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Cooper?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The history was read into the record at the last hearing. As was read by Ms. Faith, the case was postponed to allow time for the applicant to return with her operations plan, which was sent to Mr. Rulins and hopefully is part of the PowerPoint this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the legal standard, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting an area variance from the distance regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district. It will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Valerie?
Yes,
You did submit your operations plan?
I did. I submitted it to Ms. Kukla and Mr. Rollins.
Okay, Mr. Rulins, do we have that? Hello, Maurice, are you with me?
Sorry, I was muted. I said I need to find it. I thought I had it in the presentation, but I don't. So I'll put it up on screen in just a second. Go ahead and get started if you want.
Well, a lot of it depends on that plan.
And Madam Chair, may I speak?
Surely.
Also, one of the, there was also in question about the zoning, which was the main issue, the zoning in regards to Shaker Heights. And so I spoke with the Director of Planning, Senior Planning Department over at Shaker Heights. And there is no conflict with the zoning with Cleveland and Shaker Heights. And there was an email also sent to Ms. Kukla and Mr. Rollins.
Thank you very much for that update.
Yes.
Okay, you should now be able to see the operations plan.
Hey, Ms. Sutton, can you just give us a brief summary of what's in
Yeah,
here?
that's a
so we
lot to
bring
read
out-
today.
Well, yeah, I thought we would have gotten it beforehand. So, if you just give us and don't read this word by word, just give us a
Okay.
brief summary of what you submitted here.
Okay, so basically the operations, it just talks about state requirements. It talks about how many residents, the hours of operations, the staffing, the mission, the goal, the training that's going to be provided for the staff. And it just speaks to the women being supplied with the women being offered a facility to help them be a part of the society. So it's a family home where the women will be in an environment where they will learn how to be a part of a society and be a viable part of our community. And that's basically it. But the operations plan came about because Madam Chair wanted to know how it was going to be run. And so it's broken down very detailed right here.
Can you remind us who the target audience in particular is? Is this single women with children or?
So the target audience will be women. It's not specific to women with children. It's just specific to the women that I choose. Ms. Brown, would you like to speak to that? Ms. Brown is also, she trains and she does licensure and state compliances since 1999 for support from homes, and she's on the line too.
BJ Brown?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, first of all, I don't do licensure. I provide I provide the training and the technical support and assistance to operators so that they can be licensed and maintain their licenses. But this facility that Valerie is proposing to open, after talking with her and working with her, is for women who have had various negative experiences. And what she wants to do is to be able to house about 5 of them and help reacclimate them into society by giving them some of the tools that they need that they probably don't already have. So it sounds like, after having talked with her, that she wants to create an environment where they're going to be safe and they're going to be nurtured and they're going to be cared for. And she's chosen this location because she thinks it's a good, quiet, solid community that she can conduct her programs and that the women can thrive.
Is there a length of stay per person? In other words, can they live here forever or they're there for 2 months?
They can stay as long as they need to. The idea is to help them so they are able to support themselves. If they need to stay there, as long as they want to, they can. I mean, I'm not opposed to them staying there for as long as they want.
But there are no children.
As long
Are all 6 women? I think
I'm sorry.
Are they all single women?
That's the goal. What happens is you, and Ms. Brown will be helping me do this, but you sit down and you speak with someone and then you choose which women do you think will be best for your facility that you can help. So it's a process. It's not, I can't just say, I mean, I can say that these women may be single, or I can say this woman may have been divorced. I just don't know their story.
But no children will be allowed in this facility, just the women.
I'm trying to market
Yes.
towards, yes, to
Answer that one. The answer is yes, because licensure is for adults starting at the age of 18. So no children can be residing in this facility.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Maurice, City of Cleveland Planning?
Can we hear from the councilman?
Oh, forgot completely. Councilman Jones. Councilman,
You're muted.
you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Let's see. This has been a tough one for me. And the reason why it's been a tough one for me, because fundamentally, I just don't believe in having residential properties, operate businesses such as this. And that's only due to the fact that we do have some good operators that do this business, but unfortunately, you have so many others who are not so good. And so we have a transitioning neighborhood now where we're trying to stabilize it out. It has proven itself to be daunting and challenging for me coming back as council person and seeing all of the changes that have happened over the last 15, 16 years in the community that has not been a positive changes at all. And part of that is due to the high enormity of rental properties and Section 8 homes and halfway homes and group homes and people who are just running businesses out of their properties. So I'm fundamentally opposed to turning residential areas into zones of profits. But when I had an opportunity to meet with Mrs. Starks, I told her this from the very beginning. And I told her if she would get the support of the people in that area around her and do that, I could be supportive of it if everyone around there was support, especially her neighbors next to the property that is being considered. So right now we do have people who have called me up, one in particular, her neighbor who's next to her, who's in total opposition to the facility being next door to him. And at this space and time, that's for me a fundamental issue and a problem. And I don't know if we can set up a forum separate just to talk about her issue with the other neighbors and see if we can get him to buy in and come on board at some point or not. But because and then there's some others who are opposed to it, it just makes it for me it would be a no. And unless we come back at this and step back at this at a time when I can really focus and bring the community together. So at this space and time, I don't, it would be a no for me at this moment in time.
Are you requesting a postponement to have a community meeting? That's what I was kind of getting from your comments.
Yeah, we could do that. We could set something up with that and see what that entire block would say on this issue, and then come back sometime and some months down the line. and then check back at with the board. If the board is in a positive affirmation that they think that the variance should be allowed. But I do need,
There's no
I do-
guarantee after the meeting with the people on the block either way. I just wonder if more people, I do have the list of people who signed it, but sometimes people sign things just for the heck of it.
correct.
Where they have a lot of questions and, just don't want to embarrass anybody, so.
That's correct. So then I would say, lean on your wisdom, Madam Chairwoman. We can have a meeting and then come back here, back after November and have the session and talk about it. Have a big meeting on it. And that way Mrs. Starks Hutton can make the presentation to, the people in that entire area.
Valerie, is that something that you could agree to?
Yes, I can agree to that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I also wanted to just say that the people that signed the petition, when I walked the street, I actually sat down with a lot of the people and explained what I was doing. Like, I didn't just throw it out there. I know a lot of people on the block and on the street because I lived on Throckley for 20 years. So a lot of the people know me. So it wasn't just, something that I threw out there. I actually went into grave detail as far as what my mission was, what I was trying to do for these women. So just to put on the record.
Okay, but the councilman has requested a postponement, and you said you have no problem with this.
I have
so-
no problem with that.
Okay, great. Mrs. Kukla?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we thinking a month? That would be July 12th?
We're looking at November.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Only
All right, let's do November 8th. November 15th would be the next week after that.
Let me take a look.
Mrs. Hutton, I just want to make sure that you're okay with that kind of time extension. Are you okay with going to November?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
November
Ms. Britt.
8th.
Well, let me, I'm still looking, guys. Give me a sec. Yeah, that would be a perfect day. And that'd give us opportunity, because I like Mrs. Hutton. And I think that the program, as long as there's no children in the site, as Mrs. Brown stated, I think that anything that can help people is important. And if we can get everyone to sign in on this deal up there, I would not be opposed to it. And I don't mind working with Mrs. Hutton in the process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome.
Okay, he's postponing it till November the 8th without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, great. Moving right along. We still have Councilman Casey with us? Yes, no, maybe?
Councilman Casey,
No.
is he here? I didn't see him before.
Okay, fine. Then let's go to Councilman Griffins. Now, the
Griffith?
first case, Mrs. Faith.
Great. Okay. Calendar number 21-055 at 1862 East 123rd Street. University Circle Inc. owner proposes to erect 4 separate 4-story residential buildings totaling 80 units in a B2 semi-industrial district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Everyone for this case, raise your right hand if you're going to testify. I'm going to read a statement. I'm looking for the response of I do with your name. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Brandon Klein.
I do, Brad Nosen.
I do, Michael Panzica.
I do, Griffin.
I do, Ray Christosic.
I do, David Watson.
Anyone else? Last, who?
History of the property, please, Mrs. Kukla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. The most pertinent information in this case is that in calendar 14-238, this board granted a variance to erect 2 new buildings to house 204 residential units with 258 accessory off-street parking spaces. This variance was granted with the condition that a revised site plan be submitted, showing that a privacy fence will be constructed on the property line that abuts the nearest residential neighbor. Madam Chair, that is all that I have regarding that variance.
That went no place. Okay, the legal standard first, and then I'll go to Maurice. Go ahead, Ms. Wade.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting area variances from the maximum gross floor area and minimum lot size regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Maurice, I'd like to hear your.
Yes, Madam Chair, just getting back to the description. Yeah, we're just looking at an area variance here. The Landmarks Commission has already approved this project. I have a letter later on in the presentation from the Secretary of the Landmarks Commission, Don Pettit. And it might also be added that, as Ms. Kukla just pointed out, that a less restrictive variance was granted for a project with even higher density than what we're seeing here.
Okay, who's going to be the person telling us all about this wonderful thing? Is there an architect or?
Yeah, I will. Brandon Klein, Guys Companies.
Okay.
Good morning. Project is a redevelopment of the former Woodhill Supply warehouse structure. In 2015, that structure burnt down. The land was purchased by University Circle Inc. At the time to try to control, the future use of that site, knowing that it was a full piece of land within Little Italy neighborhood. There was a former developer that proposed this project with a considerable amount more density and more apartment units. I can start with just stating the process we've gone through on this project. We've held 2 community meetings. We've had gone through local design review at a conceptual level and a final level. We have also gone through University Circle's design review district as well, which was one of the conditions of the sale of the land. And then we also went through Landmarks twice and gained a certificate of appropriateness a couple weeks ago, I apologize, for this project. If you go to the next slide.
Just wanted to show the certificate of appropriateness from the Landmarks Commission before just so everybody could see it.
Thank you.
And the next slide, there you go.
So this is an overall picture of what this site looked like in 2014. I know that right now it presently does not have any of the structures on it, and it's a relatively open field, but wanted to show the density of that former site along with all the setbacks of that former building, which basically was almost a near zero setback on a majority of the site, just to set context. Next slide. Here's some contextual photos of today's presence of that site. Most importantly, you can see the adjacent houses on the slide 1 with the existing board-on-board fence. Additionally, there's the former foundation and building wall, partial wall from the Ward Hill site is also there, and you can see the grade change from that adjacent site to our current site. Next slide. Just a project description. The project consists of 17 townhomes, which would be on 2 separate parcels, and then the third parcel being the apartment building, which is an 80-unit apartment building. And as mentioned, we're requesting an area density increase for the apartment building. Next slide. The site plan has changed considerably through this process, which I'll state we've been very happy to work through with the neighborhood, with the area CDCs and other shareholders to get to the rendition that we are at today. Those changes moved the apartment building from abutting the residential side, pushing it farther to the north, to the left of this site plan, closer to the industrial uses that are to the north side of this site, and line both East 123rd and Coltman with townhouses. We've went from starting this project at 105 apartment units, and we've reduced that number down to 80 apartment units, increasing the amount of townhomes to 17 as requested by the neighborhood to try to have more for sale product. I know there is some opposition to try to push for additional for sale. We started this project with 9 for sale townhomes and increased it to 17. And the reduction in the apartment units is basically at the limit of what would make sense for the financial performance for the cost of the land. Also, we've tucked all the parking internal to the site, so there'll be no parking along any of the street lines. And to break up that parking field, we've added a considerable amount of permeators, so there's a sustainable approach to the center of the main lot, and we are a 1-for-1 parking ratio for all of the development of this site. Next slide. Some setbacks, the buildings are all set back within compliance of the zoning code. Next slide.
Is that going to become a nice cut through from one street to the other, cut right through your parking lot? If I wanted to limit.
No, if you go back, Maurice, if you could, I appreciate it. There are the outer site is not secure, but the main parking field of the 61 parking spaces would be a secure parking field. There are 4 gates at that private center drive, as you can see in the color plan. And there'll be a perimeter fencing around those 61 spaces. The 19 parking spaces will be open, and the left to right drive will be open for vehicular access. I will note that we did create a pedestrian connectivity from the north to the south so that the public can cross this site from East 123rd to the south. And one thing I didn't note was we've earmarked 2 public components to this project. There's a sculpture park to the left of the building, of the apartment building. The intention there is to work with the Sculpture Institute that houses in the building to the left for some public art displays. Also, there's some discussions with this local neighborhood of wanting to create some history of Little Italy and being able to showcase some of that history and preserve. So we're going to work through that with them. And additionally, to the bottom right, there's a play area and dog park. There was a request to maybe eliminate the play area by the neighbors and just enlarge the dog park because it's such a need and desire for that dog park. In those 2 areas, we said that we would create the interest group to further define and develop appropriately because they're meant to be for the public neighborhood and the public area. Next slide. Skip 2, I think it was, we were just showing some renderings. There you go. Looking down, so this is a rendering with the house to the south, looking down to the north of East 123rd. You can see the 4 townhome building to the left, and then the apartment building in the background, with the industrial buildings far in the north in the background. Next slide. Here's a view back from the north looking south down East 123rd of that 4-story apartment building and the townhomes in the distance. And the sculpture park basically would be right here between those 2 buildings. Here's a view down Coltman.
Why does the top, go back to the slide you just pulled off. Why does the top unit not have that roof except for the one?
I'm sorry, what was that, Madam Chair?
The 4th floor does not have the ledge above it on the one here on the corner.
Are you saying on the left corner?
Yeah.
You mean
the
the canopy over the porch?
Yes.
Aesthetically, we're just focusing on the center portion. There isn't a canopy over the left side either, on the other left corner.
Yeah, and this one, this one, and this one. Yeah, hello. Why wouldn't all of them have it or none of them have it? I don't understand.
So one of the conditions of our approvals at Landmarks was that they would like to see the left side of the building that has the brick and kind of corner marks the building mimic on the right side, which is what you're seeing here as well. That we had no objection to that, and we currently are working through those renditions to accommodate that. So there'll be more brick, a 4-story brick element that holds that corner. So I think that the comment or question that you have will go away in that discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Next slide. Here's a view down Coltman, looking at the 9 apartment or townhouse structures, and then the 4 townhouse structures in the distance. To the right, you can see the 27 Coltman, which is also a townhouse project that was built a few years ago. That's across the street. Next slide. And then here's a view back with the dog park in the right, and the view back at those townhomes. I think that's the last slide. Here's some elevations just for context of the adjacent size and structure. Should be noted that the north elevation that's showing the 1-story house, that is the anomaly in the building or in the neighborhood. The house that's directly left of that one house is actually a 2-story structure with a 3-story roof, and it continues at that level of density down the street. So this house that's adjacent is kind of the unusual condition on the street.
Madam Chair, can we ask the appellant to focus in on the variance request in particular?
Yeah, so as noted, we are asking for a density area increase to allow for the feasibility of this project and development. We're trying to balance the appropriateness of for sale townhouse products with the apartment density to offset land pricing. And as noted in the history of the property, we are asking for basically half of size of the area density that was previously approved in 2015 when that project had moved forward and it was never built.
Okay, because you're only allowing 1 parking spot for each resident and somebody's going to have 2 cars, is there extra parking on either East 123rd or at Coltman Road?
So Coltman Road and East 123rd both have on-street parking along the entire perimeter. I do know that anybody who knows Little Italy, obviously, there is a heavy street parking demand. But the townhomes themselves do have a double car parking garage, so that'll be two cars for each one of those townhomes, and the apartment building itself is 1 per 1.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay, others have been sworn in, I believe. I know Councilman Griffin usually likes to go last. Is there anybody else who's been sworn in that would like to comment? Not, I'll call on Councilman Griffin.
Madam Chair, if we can remind people to use *6 to unmute themselves.
If they're on the phone.
I'm sorry, this is David Watson. I'm sworn in and I'm one of the local homeowners. I would like to speak, please.
Okay,
All right.
David.
At that point.
Go right ahead, David.
Sure. So I own the lot that's a piece of property directly across the street on Coltman, which I bought in 2013. I lived there and have since that time with my 18-year-old daughter. My fiance and her 16-year-old daughter moved in last year. You know, I work in Cleveland, as does my fiance. My daughter actually works at Murray Hill Market. We shop, we eat, we run, we ride. We're like totally neighborhood people. And I am concerned that this development is inappropriate and will damage the value of my property and not be good for the neighborhood. And I'm here to oppose it. My concerns, I'm speaking quickly because I know there are a lot of people and I'm not going to belabor my points, but the streets are very narrow. The traffic is very high. The parking is quite poor. A number of years ago, we've had a lot of problems with utilities. If you have to get a fire truck in there, it's not an easy thing to do. And it seems to me, as I watch what's going on in the neighborhood, that this is a time of all times when we could build things like these townhouses and, you know, do it at a price point that the market would support. A friend of mine just sold their property for over $1 million. It hasn't, you know, turned over yet, but and if you were to walk around the neighborhood and look at what's actually being built, there's a new property that's completely consistent that was built on 120th Street 2-3 years ago. There's a new property on 123rd Street that was built that's consistent. There's one being built on 124th Street that are being built on these tiny little lots. I personally tried to find a lot to build a larger place for myself. When my fiance moved in, you can't find them. And so I feel like this is inconsistent with the neighborhood. Excuse me, to be clear, what this is that I'm objecting to is the apartment building. I think the townhouses I know they're consistent with the city of Cleveland's recent zoning that's designed to permit people to build in these lots. And I think that's excellent and will bring, you know, residents to the neighborhood. And as somebody who's lived in the neighborhood and, you know, tries every day to attract people to move down there, I think having permanent residents would be certainly good for the neighborhood. And I'd like to think it'd be good for the city. I can answer questions if people have any for me based on my, you know, personal knowledge of the neighborhood and the site. I guess the last thing I'll say is that, you know, the crazy thing about this site is that it's basically a rectangle. There could not be a more perfect and easy place to build something in the entire Little Italy. As somebody who's looked at the lots and tried to figure out how to stick a house in somewhere, this is just a terrific opportunity. And I would hope that we take that opportunity while the housing market is as hot as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
We have John next. I don't want to butcher your last name, so.
It's
Before that, I'm sorry, before that, Maurice, can you put up the variances that are up for what we're looking at today? And
Yes,
just
ma'am.
remind people that your comments should be aimed at what the variances are today, please. Thanks, Maurice.
There you go. So we had John was next, and then we had Brad Nosen after John.
Sure.
Okay,
John Slater, can you hear me?
Yes, John.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Excellent. Good morning, and thank you for your time on this matter. I represent Mr. Watson. I'm an attorney with the Tucker Ellis Law Firm. My address is 950 Main Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. We appreciate your time on this matter. There's just a few preliminary items that we have. You know, first of all, as Mr. Watson indicated, and he is an adjacent property owner to this site, we do object to the granting of these variances, primarily because the record that's before you does not support the granting and meeting the practical difficulty standard, either factually or under the law. Second of all, we believe that these variances are excessive. A couple preliminary items, though, that I want to indicate is the notice that was provided talked about an 80-unit development with 4 buildings. And I'm trying to do the math here, but it looks like the testimony says that there's 80 apartments and 17 townhomes. So it's a total of 97 residential units that would exist on this site. Is that correct? And that's a question you can ask to the applicant, but that's the way that the application seems to be for me. The problem is the notice that went out to the public and otherwise only indicated 80 units, not 97. So there's, we believe, deficiency in the notice. Second of all, there's been reference to a previously granted variance by this body that it was much larger, much more excessive. And what I want to indicate for the record is that each variance needs to be taken based on the facts of the case that are presented, just like this, by the individuals that are sworn in. And we have a right to cross-examine, we have a right to review the information, and we have a right to make sure that the information is done under oath. So I would object to any reference to earlier variances that were granted unless we're going to go through the record for that case. And in fact, Mr. Watson actually appealed to the Court of Common Pleas that case, and it's identified as case number 15 CV 845662 in the Court of Common Pleas, Cuyahoga County. So to the extent this body looks at that issue, we ask that that record in that case, which is all public record, that went to the Court of Appeals, be placed in the record. Now moving to the issue at hand here. As this body has clearly indicated, the question is, what is the standard to grant a variance? And it is to determine whether practical difficulties would exist. And specifically in section 329.03 of your code, it says, where there's a practical difficulty in the way of carrying out the strict letter of this provision of the zoning code, you may vary or modify the application of such provisions in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning code, so that public health, safety, morals, and general welfare will be safeguarded and substantial justice done. Then it clarifies exactly what that means. And there's a lot of case law on this point. The limitation of granting a variance, first of all, under section 329.03B1, the practical difficulty has to inhere in and be peculiar to the premises sought to be built upon or used because of physical size, shape, or other characteristic of the premises or adjoining premises, which differentiates it from other premises in the same district and creates the difficulty caused by a strict application of the zoning code not generally shared by their land or buildings in the district. Second of all, the refusal to grant the variance appealed for will deprive the owner of substantial property rights. And then finally, the granting the variance appealed from will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the provision of the zoning code. And I submit to you, if you look at the evidence presented by the applicant, there is nothing that supports any basis to grant the variance. And when you don't have that basis, what you're doing is you're basically rezoning the property, which this body doesn't have the right or the authority to do. The letter from the Land Commission doesn't cite unique characteristics of the property, and we haven't heard anyone here to testify, so we object to the submission of the Landmark Commission recommendation. It's not referring to any standard for the granting of a variance, and that's what you're here to review. And so if you look at the standards, as Mr. Watson testified, we have a 2-acre parcel of property that's rectangular in shape. There's nothing unique about it that's warranting or requiring the granting of the variance. Your zoning code says that you're only allowed to build density up to half of the total square footage of the lot at issue. And in this case, the total lot square footage is about 66,000 square feet. And they're asking to build over more than the entire square footage of the site. You would be, under your zoning code, you're only required to build on half of that, which is 33,000 square feet. They've completely thrown that zoning out the window. And for what reason? The only thing they cited at all is, well, it doesn't work for the finances on this project. That's the only thing that they talked about. What's the problem with that? The problem is they created their own difficulty or hardship by buying the property. If they paid too much for it, that's not the basis to grant a variance. In fact, they paid $1,975,000 for this 2-acre parcel of property. And this wasn't years ago. They just bought it in the last year or two. Second of all, they have knowledge of the zoning restrictions. So like the previous developer, they should have come in to get a variance before complaining that somehow this is creating a financial burden for them. And they're actually claiming, without any factual basis, that the only way this project's going to work, as they indicated, they said this is the minimum necessary to make it financially work. 97 units on 2 acres is the minimum to make it work. That doesn't make any sense at all. I think we all know better than that. They paid over $922,000 per acre, and they're cramming almost 50 units on an acre of property. And as the testimony indicated, some of the residents in this area, it seems like the feedback was they want more for owner use in the area. And in fact, the whole area is, if you're familiar with it, and Mr. Watson testified to it, are primarily single family homes, duplexes. Now, Mr. Watson's in a townhome, but not massive apartments within this particular area. You're across the street from the cemetery. You're across the street from our townhomes and basically surrounded on, in most of the area by these older single-family homes, duplexes, or multifamily, but nothing to this extent or size. And the zoning also is primarily surrounding this particular zoning area is either single-family residential or multifamily residential. So what they're asking you to do here is completely throw out your zoning code and allow a project to come in that greatly exceeds and is excessive. And there, again, there's no reason or justification. It's not as if the lot's too small. In fact, in the past, they argued because the warehouse was there, that's why they were trying to get such big density. Well, that's gone. And when they bought it, it was gone. So that's not a legitimate issue anymore. Finally, I know that Mr. Watson, you can confirm with me. I know that there's concerns about narrow streets in the area, city services, and that this type of project overburdening the infrastructure.
But that's not in front of us today.
Well, it actually is. It's a consideration if you look at the potential impacts, because what they're doing is they're allowing density. You'd only be allowed to build 27 townhomes on this property, or actually less than that if they were single family residential. So now they're increasing the density. And I don't mean to interrupt, but it is a relevant factor in consideration, because you're to look at what are the impacts. And we've also had other city service problems such as plowing or otherwise. So you're taking an area that's a quaint area, and it's the reason Little Italy is what it is. It's a little quaint area, and you're cramming in a massive, excessively large apartment complex with 80 units plus 17 townhomes. And they're coming to you saying, well, actually, we're doing a favor because we lowered the density less than what was done before, and we're trying to work with the people. The fact is that if anything should be built here, it should be purely a townhome development. And you adopted new ordinances to allow that in your community in 2018, specifically for that purpose. And so based on those factors, it's not as if the lot's too small. It's not as if you have massive apartment next to this or some other external obsolescence. You have a nice, clean site in a very attractive area. And Mr. Watson has testified that there is plenty of other development going on. It's very attractive. He himself paid significant amount of money for his townhome across the street. And based on those factors, and based on the evidence you've heard so far, there's simply no justification for granting this variance. If anything, they paid probably too much money for this property, and that's not the basis to grant a variance. And for those factors, we ask that this matter not be approved.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, if I can respond to clarify a comment, a few comments that were made during that.
Madam Chair, if we could jump in, if the applicant is going to speak directly to the number of units, there is an issue with the public posting that we would want to clarify with our attorney before we go any further with testimony. This may need to be reposted as on the building and housing notice of nonconformance. I can verify that notice of nonconformance did state the number of total units as being 80. So if we can have the applicant confirm that and then defer to our attorney, Lori Wagner, for some clarification.
So happy to answer that question. There's 3 parcels a part of this project, parcel A, B, and C, that was a part of the submission process. Those parcels B and C are for the townhomes of 17 townhomes. Those townhomes are in full compliance with the zoning code and ordinance, and no variances are required for those 17 townhouses on those parcels. The 80 unit apartment building, which is on parcel A, that parcel A does have variances associated. Thus, I do not feel that the public notice issue is wrong, because we are here for an area density for the apartment building only on parcel A.
This is Lori Wagner, and I was wondering when you were saying that if the townhomes were actually legally permitted and therefore didn't need to be advertised, and it sounds like they are. As far as I can see, the advertisement was accurate as far as how many units are in the part of the project that requires variances, as well as how many with the square footage and everything like that. So if there's no inaccuracies in that, then there's no reason to need to repost it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wagner.
We had Brad Nosen next,
Brad?
unless Mr. Klein had more clarifications.
I'll let Brad speak. The only comment I just wanted to make was that we held 2 city neighborhood meetings that was extremely well attended with residents in the area. I believe the resident, David Watson, was in attendance but did not speak. And this is the first time we've heard his commentary on the issues with this site. So there was 2 public residential meetings with neighbors, and those comments were not brought forward or presented to us at those aspects. So I just wanted that to go on the record.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
Yeah. Hi, good morning. My name, yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks. So I'm part of the development team. I'm a developer with City 6, and my partner Michael Panzica and Brandon Klein is with Geis. He's our design partner on this. Yeah, I want to reiterate kind of the process that we went through, and maybe this is not pertinent. Stop me if it is, if it's not. But you know, we went through a public RFP process with University Circle Incorporated, who is the owner, who are the owners of the site, going back to September of last year. We had to fulfill certain requirements, or certain requirements as put forth in their RFP process, as far as, hey, we want to see a mix of for sale and for rent units here, and those requirements were based on feedback from the community. We then put together our first initial plan, which we brought to the initial stakeholders, and this was in September, October. We brought it to the what we'll call the Sculpture Garden and Arts Center stakeholders, and we also brought it to the local community stakeholders, the immediate neighbors, including Mr. Watson. At that time, the only thing I've ever seen from him was a feedback of he wrote, this was constructive. At every other meeting at that point, we had 2 or 3 other community meetings in which we tweaked the plans 5 times. We brought the building down about 15 feet in height, and we decreased the units by 25 feet, and we've added 8 more townhomes, for a total of 17 townhomes, all with constant feedback from the community, constant feedback from Little Italy Design Review Committee, constant feedback from the University Circle Incorporated, as well as the Landmarks Committee. The thing I've actually really enjoyed about this process is that it's been a very good process, and I believe that Ray Kristosik from Little Italy, and I believe that University Circle has run a very clear, concise process since September, where we've received constant feedback from the community and we've made substantial changes. Originally, the apartment building was on the southerly side of the site along the neighborhood, and we completely moved it and switched it and moved it to the northeasterly portion of the site closest to the cemetery and the industrial buildings. And in order to do that, we hid it from the rest of the neighborhood by including more for sale townhomes. I'm not surprised to see Mr. Watson as attorney here. I am surprised that we're getting such immediate pushback when we've had 8 months to respond to the rest of the community's concerns. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that process. I appreciate your time. I think we've had a very constructive one. I don't know if Little Italy or somebody from University Circle wants to speak about it, but that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Madam
Brad.
Chair, we do have
Brad.
Ray Kristosik from the local Community Development Corporation.
Yep, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. As Brad and Brandon talked about, we did, and this is always something that we try to do before it goes to Board of Zoning Appeals, is get the community involved and get them informed. And we, I think, went over and above in this one. We met with the immediate stakeholders, like Brad mentioned, early on in the process. We always our thoughts and our way we try to direct the team was we needed more for sale and less apartments. And I think short of being all for sale, we did achieve that when we went from 9 to 17 and 105 to 80 on the apartments. There was a lot of pushback because it's parking lot, but one of the reasons why we encouraged that was because it in turn lowered the building by 15 feet, which we thought the height and the scale was always a big concern for the adjoining neighbors. We did have a neighborhood Zoom meeting before our committee and the Landmark Commission made conceptual comments, probably back in end of maybe March or beginning of April. We took the project through the same process once changes were made for final approval from both bodies, and we got very little feedback from the community, which kind of was surprising to me. So I don't know if that meant that we did a good job, or they're comfortable with it, or in the era of Zoom, it's hard, they don't care anymore. I don't know. But I wanted to say, because we've always talked about this every time we come in front of you, is the process. And I think this one, regardless of what the outcome is today, I think we took this project through a process, and it probably was, and as Brad mentioned, I think it was a good process. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Brad. I'd like to hear from Councilman Griffin now. Councilman, are you with us?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of this project. I support the variance, and let me go straight for, as Ms. Britt, Commissioner Britt said earlier, we're here to talk about the variance, and the variance, I totally support the variance, but I do want a couple of comments also about the process. I did have the opportunity, to view the Zoom meeting, as well as stay in close contact with Little Italy Redevelopment Corporation, and Ray's right. Anytime you build in Little Italy, there is no shortage of concerns, and rightfully so, a lot of the folks in Little Italy really want to see more home ownership. They really would like to see more residents who live there to be able to get support for their homes. And also, we have a larger question of really just how these kind of projects impact his districts. But one of the things that we really tried to do in this project was really try to migrate east. Most of the development in Little Italy has happened in the center of the neighborhood, right at Murray Hill and Mayfield, and in those areas where there are a lot of small streets. Now we're moving more towards the East Cleveland border because there is a high need for houses. And I tell people, once again, there is a growing need, and the market is growing for housing in this area because of the job creation that's being created at University Circle, as well as Cleveland Clinic and some of those areas. So I support the variance. I support this. The couple of complaints that I did get, which are very legitimate complaints, are about parking. I heard Ms. Chair Johnson bring the same thing up, which I think that we have some very good remedies to be able to handle the parking issue. I am encouraged about the two car parking at the townhomes. So, but because this has gone through the process, because I have received minimal, and like I said, very surprising minimal amount of pushback regarding this project, I can tell you that I do support it. So I urge this group to support it, and hopefully the developer will always continue to work closely with the residents in order to try to continue to make this project better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman.
We have Michael Panzica would like to speak.
Michael?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thanks for your time. I'm one of the developers partners with Brad Knows on this project. I'll just speak to one point regarding economic feasibility. We are not the owners of this site. We are under contract to purchase it. University Circle Incorporated is the owner, and they purchased the land, and they did so with a community development focus in mind to set forth the conditions for the development of this site in conjunction with LIRC and the area stakeholders. And so as it relates to the feasibility of adding more for sale product, this was taken to the development community at large, including for sale developers such as Kinez, who we actually brought in to execute on the townhomes at this capacity. They declined to offer on the site to do a larger for sale product. So we are not just saying it, to, I guess, to get this motion passed. It is truly at a point now where it makes economic sense as set forth here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
And we have John Slater again.
Sure. Just some more points of clarification. Has there been a lot split recently? Because on the county website, it shows 2 parcels of property. And I do have follow-up to that. I just want to confirm for the record what we're talking about.
The lot split has not occurred as of yet. The land has not transferred yet to be able to do that. But there will be a lot split submitted and done before permits are pulled.
And also the size of the lot that the apartment will be on is what size?
I believe 1.56 acres.
And here's the point. Again, I know your legal counsel's indicated that there was sufficiency in terms of notice, but they had talked about and coupled that with the claim that, well, the townhomes are on different parcels.
Yeah, if I can, not to interject on you, but in the submission, the 66,000, and that's in the notary, in the description is the appropriate area density for parcel A.
Yeah, again, but the notice is misleading in that it indicates there's only 80 units. Here on the parcel that's at issue for the variance that's legally existing, it's 80 units plus at least the other 17. I know that the way the layout, there's another parcel there, so some of those may get picked up. I'm just saying it's not clear notice, and it's definitely misleading, and we believe that it's deficient. But again, more than that, if you've heard all the testimony that talked about, well, we've had a procedure, we've met with the neighbors, we've tried to come up with a good project, and that's not the issue that's before this body. The issue is whether this property has unique characteristics that do not allow it to be developed under your zoning. And then to the extent you're going to grant variances, they need to be the minimum necessary to relieve them of that practical difficulty. And the fact is that as we do the math here, if you think about the variance, they're asking for variance of 296% more units on, and this is if you look at all the property, then you'd be permitted. And that's if you had a total of 80 units on the property. If you combine these together, you'd look at 97 units. But then again, if you only take it down to 1.5 acres, 80 units on it is clear. It's not 10% or 20%. It's hundreds of percent more units on that small piece of property. And there's nothing like that exists within this area. The only thing is the townhomes across the street, and they don't come close to that density. They also have, significantly larger building that's permitted. You're allowed, for every 1 unit for any 2,400 square feet of lot size. And again, you'd be allowed, I think, 27 units on this, and they're asking for 80. Again, clearly excessive. And then they've talked about, there's been, other than saying an RFP went out and asked the development community about how we're going to develop the property, there has been no tie-in about what can actually be built or developed on the property here, and whether it can be under the zoning code. It's just to come in and say, well, individuals or developers in the community may not want to build on it because they may not make enough profit or there's not enough money in it. The fact that you have to look at the facts. What is it about, if they want to change the zoning in Cleveland that allows these kind of apartment buildings at this density in this area, there's a procedure. You go through rezoning, not granting of the variance. The variance has to be tied to unique characteristics of the property. Again, there's nothing here unique about it. It's a beautiful, large piece of property that I'm sure people can make plenty of money at if they built it under the zoning code. They're asking for a hardship or, actually a practical difficulty when none exists. And again, we believe that under the case law, that's prohibited.
Madam Chair, we have someone from University Circle Incorporated on the phone that would like to speak. And then we also have Councilman Griffin again.
Okay. Who's on the phone?
Hi, good morning. This is Casey Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes,
Oh,
we
great.
can. We can hear you.
Hi, this is Casey Petritis, Director of Real. This is Casey Petritis. I'm the Director of Real Estate at University Circle Inc. The property has not transferred. Part of the agreement, as part of the process, was obviously all the permits and things need to be in place for the development team to acquire the premises. So part of that is obviously going through all the public processes as we're going through today. I also want to be clear that UCI will be taking a financial loss on this project. We've acquired it on behalf of the community. As was mentioned before, there was a larger development that was proposed. And we've vetted this out to several different developers. And it's really not a matter of the zoning and all that to really make the market economics work on the site. There's a little bit, it's just that's the price of land and real estate. We did talk to Kenez early on. He was part of the first folks that we spoke with about doing all, single family residential, but we felt that all along that we needed a multifamily component to basically make the economics work. And I credit the development team and Ray over at Little Italy for working through the community processes to really run through the numbers. Concessions were made. I just think a lot of good things have happened, and UCI is not going to benefit from this project whatsoever. So we're really hoping this continues to move forward the process. That's
Thanks
all.
very much, Casey.
Madam Chair, was that person sworn in?
Oh, I don't believe so.
No. So we'll take it with a grain of salt. But Councilman Griffin would like to speak again.
Excuse me, this is Lori Wagner. We should swear in the person that just spoke so that the remarks can be properly part of the record. And I apologize for interrupting when you were calling on Councilman Griffin, but I think it would be better to take care of this part first.
Can we get a hold of Casey? I don't know if he's still on the line.
Yes.
You are?
Casey, I'm going to read a
Yes,
statement,
I'm-
Casey.
Yes.
Your response is I do with your name. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving at this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Casey Petritis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
We have Councilman Griffin, and then we also have Ray, I believe, would like to speak again.
Okay. Councilman,
Although I'm not sure if Councilman Griffin may have left.
Madam Chair, he did leave and he texted me. One of the things we did on one of the other projects in the neighborhood regarding the parking is that we restricted, if parking is an issue and a concern to the board, where we restricted those addresses to be able to obtain the residential permit parking permits for the side streets. So I don't, I think that if parking is an issue, that may be something you guys, if you could consider. We've done that on some other projects in the area.
good to hear.
That's but for once in our life, for a Little Italy case, parking is not on the variances, but thanks for that information.
No,
Exactly.
I understand that, but
We just want to keep everything to the one variance that's on here. And so I think we've kind of gotten off task here a little bit about the process and all that. I'm glad that we had a very involved community process, but I just don't want us to belabor the wrong thing and we're not talking about variances. So.
Okay.
This is David Watson. May I speak again briefly?
Mr. Watson, is it something new you haven't said before?
Oh, Councilman Griffin is back.
Oh, hold on, David.
And I think it's just the lack of resources that are there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to come back on briefly because thinking about the parking situation, I actually thought of what we did with the buildings at I believe it was the Parati development, where we just want to make sure that we restrict that these folks that do come into this apartment building, that they are not and I believe this board has the ability to do that, that if I could request, and please, by all means, the attorneys could let me know what we need to do to formally request this, but that we do not allow parking permits for the tenants that are at that location, because that help with some overflow about parking in the surrounding area. So I know this board has done that before with the Parati building, and I would ask that we do the same with this location right here.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Watson, quickly.
Yes, I've tried not to repeat myself in my prior comments, so this will be just very succinct, which is to say that in the community forums, all of which I personally attended, I did express my opinion that this should all be owner occupied and that we should not build a great big apartment building. I just didn't express it 10 times. I, based on prior experience, assumed that I'd have to go through this process and probably the process that follows this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Watson. If there are no other questions by the board, I would definitely entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I just had a couple questions and a comment.
Ms. Faith, go ahead.
To our CDC representative, can you tell me if the UCI circulator bus services this area as well as RTA is adjacent on Euclid, I believe?
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the circulator does not hit that location, but the bus line runs up Euclid. And I believe, yeah, there's no circulator in that area though.
Okay. So maybe something that Annie Pease might be able to address. And to our representatives from the developers, can you tell me what the plan is for bicycle parking for the apartment buildings?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't think I highlighted that in the presentation, but we do have parking, bike parking on the outside, and then also secure parking inside the building as an amenity to the apartment building itself. So there's bike racks out front of the entrance along East 123rd, and then there's also an internal storage room to the building.
And what's your capacity in both of those locations?
I believe it was 14 parking spaces, bike parking spaces that were required by code and that we were complying with.
We'll have more than that inside, Brandon. We'll have well more than that.
Correct.
So somewhere near 50% of the units should have access to bicycle parking.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
We'll
And
actually
then
try
I
to
have
have more.
Okay, yes, that would be excellent. And then with a comment to the little micro park, your play area and your dog park, having managed a dog park with upwards of 56,000 dog visits a year, and also consulting on the dog park at the Zone Recreation Center, I would just mention that statistics from the Trust for Public Land are that there are more U.S. households with dogs than there are with children. And it's not perhaps the best safety situation to have a children's play area adjacent to the dog park. So if you are leaning to using the entire area for a dog park, I would recommend that, making sure that it is fenced and double gated as well. And with our restrictions, so you don't have any complaints from adjacent residents. So with that, Madam Chair, I can go ahead and make a motion if you'd like.
Go right ahead, Ms. Faith.
Okay. The project, though we do have some opposition, has overwhelmingly been supported by area residents. It has the support of Councilman Griffin in the area. It has the support of Landmarks. It has the support of University Circle Incorporated. It seems to, it's overwhelmingly supported by most parties involved. And it, based on the history of the property, has been modified in such a way so that most considerations have been met. So with that, I move that we approve the project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
Ms. Britt,
Yes.
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Calendar 21-055 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send you a letter.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
21-077. It's 3242 West 117. Ms. Faith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar number 21-077 at 3242 West 117th Street. Ohio Elite Properties owner proposes to expand the existing used car lot in a C1 general retail district in a C1 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Everyone for this case, kindly raise your right hand. I will read a statement and looking for a response of I do with your name. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And this is James McKnight, and I am taking time off from my day job at the city.
I do, Adam Davenport.
Next.
Vilma raised her hand. Ma'am, are you going to be commenting? If so, please acknowledge.
Yes, this is Vilma Quintana Rowland, and I'm a resident.
All righty. Anyone else? Last call.
Okay.
On to history.
History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property is located and was originally located in split zoning. It was between general retail and two-family. The zoning was changed to local retail in 2015 on that portion that was originally zoned two-family. In the records room, I found that in 1965, a permit was issued to erect a one-story gas station with 3 pump islands and a hard surface parking lot. There are no variances on file. And in the more recent history, we see that in 2013, a new masonry addition to existing structure for car washing with no mechanical repair was issued to the property. There was a permit issued also in 2013 to add 2 garage bays. 2016, a one-story mason addition for car detailing was issued to the property. And then in 2020, there was a license that expired for a MVR garage. I believe that would be motor vehicle repair garage. That license expired in 2020, October of 2020. That's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Ms. Maurice? Oh, let's get the legal standard first, and then I'll go back to Maurice. Go ahead, Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the distance, landscaping, and off-street parking regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship, particularly to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Rulon.
So, Madam Chair, we have 5 separate variances here. The first one is really just about use. Although we have to point out that this is an existing use, so it would be an expansion of a non-conforming use. We are also looking at a variance for the width of the lot. The standard is a 60-foot width. They are proposing 55. We've got some landscaping and screening requirements for a transition strip and also on the frontage strip. And then we also have a variance about the number of parking spaces provided for customers, which I believe were just not shown on the plans. And that's all we have.
Madam Chair, this is Liz.
Yes.
There was an amendment to the to this notice of nonconformance. There was a revised agenda sent out in public notice to the neighbors. The local retail business district has been identified as being part of the project area, and so therefore the case is also includes the use district, which Mr. Rulons mentioned, but it also eliminates the 60-foot wide issue for this lot, as it has been brought to our attention that it actually meets that requirement, since it is extending into the local retail business district. So again, that has been updated, and the public notice went out notifying the neighbors of this change.
So item number 2 is not needed. Is that correct, Ms. Kukla?
That's correct.
Okay. Is this at the corner of Triscuit and 117th?
Yes.
There we have an aerial.
You got that's the wrong, then it should be one. No, this is, the yellow box is incorrect. Oh, they're obtaining that extra piece.
Mm-hmm.
Extra,
Correct.
okay. Okay, fine.
And it is associated with the parcel on the corner.
Gotcha. But the house keeps popping up on, okay. Here we go.
Yeah, that was just an errant slide that needs to be removed.
Thank you. Okay, so they're going to put,
And I believe we have Mr. McKnight to explain the
Sure.
James?
Yes, I'll walk you through it real quickly. This is exactly what we're proposing, is to actually extend and expand the lot to the north and encompass the 55-foot lot to the north. We're going to maintain the same perimeter landscape and masonry wall detail, and actually add a strip of landscaping. So we do have a 4-foot landscape frontage strip across the frontage of 117th Street. And we also have a 10-foot setback at the rear or west side of the property to maintain that setback as well. And then the entire site will drain into a drainage biofiltration area along the north edge. And we did attend the Far West design review presentation and received an approval for this. We also have a letter of, I believe there's a letter of support that was sent from Bel Air Puritas. I hope that was forwarded.
Liz, did you get a letter from Bel Air Puritas?
Chair, let me double check. It sounds familiar. I think I have it in the file. Give me 1 minute.
So, Madam Chair, just to clarify, I think there's a couple of these variances have already been met then by the proposed plan. Is that correct, Mr. McKnight?
Yes, we did clarify that there is a 4-foot frontage. So number 5 has been accomplished, as well as number 3.
And number 2 was already gone. So we've only got number 1 and number 4. And that was, number 4 is just because it wasn't depicted on the plan.
And we can certainly satisfy that. If it needs to be accomplished on this specific lot, I would just say that the entire corner will function and provide customer parking, certainly.
Mr. McKnight, could I just ask your relationship to this business?
I'm just hired as a consultant to help
Okay.
design this and have it presented.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Any, Adam? Adam was sworn in.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I can talk a couple points about the design review committee and then our kind of perspective here in planning. So the design review committee did give this project approval. They wanted to see the landscaping and setback requirements met. So I'm glad that those are adhered to. I think those are easy things to comply with overall. And then more from a planning perspective, I guess, normally we would not be an advocate for expanding used car lots in general. But a couple things of note about the area since I came on to Planning Commission in 2018. So the owner of the car lot at the corner that is wishing to expand, he also owns the building to the north, which is to the right of that yellow square, and is currently renovating that building. He brought me an original proposal a couple years ago to expand the used car lot all the way north to almost the kind of the residential area you see closer to the highway. So 90 is out of the screen to the far right, if you know the area. So I mean, we thought that was a bad proposal to expand the used car lot that far away. So I'm glad that the current proposal is keeping the existing building rather than demolishing it, renovating it, and using it for something else. I think of note, there is a connection to the parking lot for that building in the rear of the plan. I mean, I think it could be justified that it would be used for circulation for cars, but probably should not be used for the expansion of the used car sales and should be reserved for parking of the tenants of that building. So I would like to make that clear. And with that, I'll leave it at that at the moment. Thank you.
Madam Chair, to Mr. Davenport.
Yes.
Does the owner also own that parcel that's to the north of the building that is under renovation, where there used to be a drive-in restaurant right behind that right behind the house on the dead-end street?
Jim McKnight might know better than I. I thought he owns all three of those parcels, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right, Adam. I think he does own those three.
So he owns the corner, the lot that's in the yellow square, the lot to the north of the yellow square with the building under renovation, and the lot that used to have the drive-in restaurant that's right behind the houses. Is that correct? So
Correct.
that's four parcels in total.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Liz.
Yes, Liz.
I was not able to find that letter from Bella Puritas. I was looking for a letter from Melissa Miller. I don't see it in the file or in my email. So if she could send that again to me, Mr. McKnight, if you could send that request.
Yeah, I'll forward it right now.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Do we have anything from Councilman Casey?
No.
No.
Okay. It's usually pretty good. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, given that the testimony and support from coming support from the CDC as well as city planning, I move that we approve the variances as requested for calendar number 21-077, noting that the appellant has testified as well as city planning that numbers 2, 3, and 4, I believe, I can't see the list, are no longer.
Hold on,
2,
I
3,
can
and
go.
5.
I can go
It's
back
2,
to
3,
that.
and 2, 3, and 5 are off the table.
2, 3, and 5. Okay, thanks.
Right. We're looking at 1 and 4.
Okay. We have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Donovan,
Tim,
you might be muted, Mr. Donovan.
Tim,
Okay, I'll go into Ms. Barnes.
Ms. Barnes, yes.
Ms. Faith,
Yes.
Ms. Britt,
Yes.
Mr. Donovan. Hearing that Mr. Donovan, so Chairwoman Johnson.
yes.
Calendar 21-77 is granted. It'll be ratified next week and we will send you a letter.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Old business? 1, 2, 3, 9, and 10 without objection.
Without objection.
Objection.
Without objection, sorry, my computer, I got lost there for a second.
But we've been found.
Lost and found.
Okay. All members of the board, would you please stay on the line for another minute?
Surely.
Surely. No, she doesn't work.
Yes. Well, I move that we go to private session so we can start recording.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I will stop the recording.
Wait, let's ask Lori. I'm not sure if we can meet offline without posting such meeting. Lori?
Well, the meeting has been posted. What you need is a proper motion to go into executive session for a reason that's allowed by the code. I'm not sure why you want to go into executive session, so it's
okay.
There definitely was a proper motion. Is it to discuss personnel issues?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well then, yeah, you can go into executive session for that. You have to vote on the motion if the board has to vote.
I'll move
Second
that
the
we go to
motion.
executive session.
Thank you. Everybody, those of you who do not know, I have unfortunately been forced to move.
Hold on a minute, hold on a minute, hold on a minute. I haven't stopped anything. Hold on.
Okay.
We didn't vote. We have to vote.
And you didn't vote either.
I made a motion. Did somebody second it?
I made the motion first.
Yeah.
I'll second your motion, Kyle.
Okay, thank you.
I seconded it, Tim. So we just
Okay.
need to go to the vote.
Okay, fine.
Ms. Barnes?
So she thirded.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.